All right, welcome to Raising Funds for World Domination, Day 62. So when I started up the chat, or as soon as I started the stream, it looks like there were some people in the chat. And when I opened up the window, those other chats has disappeared. So I don't know if those were from yesterday or from that other extra live stream that got created yesterday or something, but yeah, so the update today, so I have an update today. So the general recap was the first eviction hearing was way back January 27th, originally rescheduled from February 19th, and then we had the second hearing, which was the first L2 merits hearing. That was back on May 26th, almost a month ago now. And yesterday, actually, I got an email from the tenant board. And according to them, the next hearing, the next is basically the continuation of this one, because we didn't finish and there was one more witness. The next hearing will be on October 6th. 2025. So until I have a little bit of time, a few months. What is that? I guess it's just over 3 months away. So I got a little bit of time to relax until then. I guess I can cross one of these off the list. I released the next version of the block mining game. I've been working on that for the previous 62 days. So now I'm moving on to getting some of these other items done. So today I worked most of the day on the business year end. So I got through the accounting. I got my checking account to balance for the year for all my all the activity for this year. So next, I guess tomorrow, I'll work on balancing the credit card and just tallying up. A lot of it's just some is just mundane stuff, but then there's all kinds of other. There's so many random charges that you get for things, and it's always hard to figure out like where the money comes from. There's some kind of random charge for like RBC charges me for like every I've noticed every 5 years in my business it's like $58 or something. It's some random odd amount. Robert's here. Orthoplex 64 sends a wave. Sam thought you would stop streaming for some reason. Yeah, I guess I wasn't super clear about the intention. I am planning to kind of I'm gonna change. Well, I'm thinking that I'd actually like, once I get working on something, like I can't stop thinking about the next changes I'd like to make to the block mining game. But I have to shift away from that and focus on some of the other stuff. I got to get the year-end taxes done. Technically, the business year end isn't even for a few more days, but by the time if I start working on it now, by the time I'm finished up, because it takes a bunch of time for the accountant to get it done, but fortunately, business taxes are interesting. You have 3 months to pay your taxes, and 6 months to file. So technically, it's not due until like the end of the year. But I'd like to just get it out of the way, and because you have to pay within, it's interesting. You have to pay. The deadline for paying your taxes is before filing your taxes. So you can guess how much you're gonna have to pay in taxes if you want, and then just file them later. But I guess the idea there is you'd have to overpay unless you want to pay interest. But anyway, so I'm going to work on that, and then also I also worked a bit on the script for the next long form video, and of course we're working on world domination plans, and also updates on a couple of communications with some other tenants on the renoviction situation. But I think a lot of the preparation work for this is mostly done. And from what I've seen, I've seen some news reports where the some of the renovictions of this landlord at other buildings have been thrown out, which is pretty cool. Taxes in Canada seem even more complicated. Yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, I think taxes there's a lot of bureaucracy everywhere. There's tons of just like, there's so much time wasting nonsense. Like one of the things I spent time on today was I was looking at my going through my statements, and there was a credit on my account of $401, and I looked at that and I was like, $401. What was that? Because I got to figure out where did that come from, and I thought at one point it was actually maybe like my GST rebate, because it was around $400 or something, $470. But then I looked it up and it wasn't the exact number, so I kept I couldn't. I went through a bunch of on my bank statements, it just said bank to bank transfer, it said branch to branch, and then like some random number, like 220 something. So there's no indication like what was it for, where did it come from, and just like searching through various accounts. So I logged into my business government account thing, and I found out what it actually was. I don't even pay attention to this in the news because they've been going back and forth. There's a carbon rebate thing, so they're charging this like carbon tax in Canada. We're getting carbon rebates. I thought it was for people, for individuals, but apparently it's also for businesses. And they constantly like argue on the news about like, I think the carbon tax is good, I think the carbon tax is bad, and they're like, they brought it in and they wanted to get rid of it and stuff. And I just don't even pay attention to it. But I didn't realize that I got one of these carbon rebates, and that's where it was. And when I logged into my business bank account, it was on the corporate account. There was a credit for this carbon rebate, and of course so I'm now like, okay, so I get $400, but now I have to waste time like learning like, how do I account for this? So when I Google it, I found it's a carbon rebate, which I guess is like, it's coming from the government. So basically it's like my own taxes dollars go to the government to get the government to pay me for these $400, and then I have to like investigate where this money comes from and figure out the tax implications of it. And then I started searching like for how to account for this, and then it said it's not it's taxable. So it's a credit you get, but you have to treat it as income, so it's taxable. So you have to add it like as basically revenue on your taxes, even though the government is giving it to me in the first place. So like it's just a nonsense. It's such a waste of time and mental calculation. And there's also then I read that there's also there's an effort in the government to make it non-taxable. So and I don't know, I think at this point it's taxable. But they said that there was this is on like the government's own website. They said like there were some people arguing to make it non-taxable, but this has not passed in the House or whatever. And of course our government is like, that like Parliament is always prorogued and stuff, and they don't. I don't even know if they're like actively passing laws and stuff like that anymore, or if they're ever like what the state of our government is right now. I think they're supposed to go on summer holiday or something soon. Anyway, it's just so much time wasted. So if it's like $400, That's not like a crazy amount of money, but I have to waste time investigating this, putting it as a line item on my taxes, and then I have to hand it to my accountant, and it's more work for my accountant to look at this. So it'll probably cost, like $200 worth of time and effort for the accountant and me to deal with and research the implications of this tax credit. So anyway, that's what I did today. That was my progress for today. It'd be nice if maybe it's only a couple more days to get through the credit card transactions, and then there's a couple other accounts, just like some other business expenses and stuff to add up. Figure out like HST remittances and stuff. And I did like one Kickstarter project this year, so it's just going through and downloading receipts and stuff, make sure I have all that kind of stuff in order. Yeah, that was basically it. Pretty boring day, to be honest. So today, I'm not going to do any development on the block mining game. But I guess we can space out and play test it, I guess. What food do you think chat should try? I don't know. I guess it depends what you like. Has karma gotten to your landlord yet? I'm not sure. I guess if it did, I probably wouldn't hear about it. I know the real estate in Canada is kind of going downhill, so if the real estate market finally collapses, then maybe he's I think he does a lot of stuff on leverage, so maybe tonight I will crack open. I have an energy drink that I got like quite a long time ago. I got it for to drink on stream, and then I decided I probably shouldn't make a habit of energy drinks. You should try making a 3D game. Technically, this is a 3D game. It's a 3D game now. I guess part of the reason why I started with like this simple terminal-based thing is because from this it can easily generalize to be 3D. So I could use all the same data structures and stuff and just kind of repurpose it for an actual 3D engine. But for now, I'll try to continue making progress on what I got so far. There's other important features like to do, like the server side stuff, and I think multiplayer would be that would be a really big deal. That would if I had multiplayer, even with the almost non-existent game features right now, even multiplayer, just having a multiplayer, I think would substantially increase the appeal. Honorable Bunny says, "Hey Calzone." Is that my nickname now? Calzone? Drinking Red Bull this late? You won't be able to sleep all night. I don't think it keeps you up that much. There's that what's his face? Chubby Emu, that health doctor guy, he has this story about how he apparently was lacking some vitamin, and he started he had insomnia, and the only way he could get to sleep was by drinking Red Bull. I guess there's some actual, you can have a deficit in something. I forget the check out the original video for the exact description on that. I think AI is killing my motivation. That plus Iran's ditch. Yeah, the news cycle is. Yeah, I mean, just kind of give like when something like that happens. Like I keep clicking on like news videos and stuff about that, and on one hand I'm like, yeah, you know, I shouldn't be wasting my time reading these news things. But then again, like, it's kind of a big deal if we go into a world war. So, but I don't know. Maybe things will calm down. Who knows? Doesn't it have like 250 milligrams of caffeine? I'm not sure. The world thanks you for your preventing World War III as a butterfly effect from your calzone review. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. What would be the chain of events that make that happen? 114 milligram, the 12 ounce. Let's see if it has any indication on this. I think it says 80 milligrams of caffeine, and this is a how big is this? Uh, 250 mils. So it's like one cup of coffee. You can buy bigger ones. Actually, for the Rockstar energy drinks, you could buy smaller, like the mini size ones. And I honestly liked buying those because it's kind of the perfect amount. I just wanted like a little bit of something sweet, and sugary, and that has a bit of caffeine, but like not a crazy amount. But they stopped selling them, and I ended up buying the dollar store's entire supply. We do Red Bull bigger in America. Yeah, I think we have those here too, but I never buy them. That's a bit too much. You know, traffic patterns and such. Your travel affected others. Like an elected official, which changed their minds. I didn't drive anywhere though. I walked to get my calzone. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't think I interacted with anyone other than the waiter to get it. But I don't know. Maybe somebody watched. Maybe the YouTube algorithm made somebody watch it instead of a different video. I really like Red Bull. Yeah, but full throttle. Yeah, I just like the taste of them. But the sugar and caffeine is not really good for you. Want to start an energy drink company? Call it, god damn. I think there's limits. Actually, there was some energy drink that got banned from Canada because it was all above the legal limits for caffeine. I think there's some teenagers that like drink way too many. There's they sell them too at clubs where like you can get specific alcoholic drinks where it's like you chug a Red Bull and an alcoholic drink, but it's also extremely bad for you, and then people will have like 10 of those in a night. Panera Bread out here killing people's lemonade. Did they sell energy drinks like that? Sugar-free Red Bull. Yeah, but if I'm gonna buy it, I want the authentic stuff. It's like a caffeine-free coffee. It's nonsense. Oh, mine is sugar-free? I think this is the regular one. I know what you're talking about though. There's like a slightly different color one. This is the regular one. It might be just the color background in here. Yeah, sugar is 25 grams. So according to the label, it's got 25 grams of sugar. Panera Bread has caffeinated charged lemonade, which has allegedly taken out multiple people. Wow. Lighting fooled me. Now Red asked them about that, and they aren't interested in making a caffeine-free version. Yeah, I guess it would kind of defeat the purpose. Although the taste is pretty good. I know there's special for filming Red Bulls, which are just water in a can. I guess you could just fake it. I would waste so much money on Red Bull. I could drink all night. Why wouldn't you just buy a Red Bull and put cold water in cans? Yeah, that's what I would think you would do if you wanted it for a movie prop. For filming, they wanted them to open it? Oh, okay. That's very, very elaborate and specific. You might have to do scene a dozen times. But then you'd have a heart attack. So much iron oxide, yeah. Yeah, I really need more like more interesting game loop. It'd be cool if I actually get around to implementing more of the mechanics, like fundamental mechanics of the game. I could implement more features, like even stuff like crafting, for example. I almost think I should do a lot more refactoring on how stuff like the server side works. Because if I implement this all as single player, then I'm gonna have to like do more adjustments to re-implement it on multiplayer support. So it'll make more sense to just implement multiplayer first. I'm stuck. How did I get in here? That's one disadvantage. I can't figure out what's above me. Okay, there we go. Oh, it came in that way. Secret calzone block. You could, once there's, I think maybe once I get into like food items and stuff, that's a possibility. Apparently Leonardo DiCaprio had eaten 70 sushi during Wolf of Wall Street. Got very sick. TLO says, what's up? How's it going? I'm just play testing the newest release of my terminal-based video game after I've been working on it for the previous 60 days, and then I just released a new version. So tonight I'm kind of relaxing and just spacing out, playing the game. Man, I feel sleepy after that Red Bull. Oops. I need a way to control what I'm crafting. At least I can control what I'm consuming now, but it's annoying because the way my crafting works is it just looks to see like, do you have enough resources to create an iron pick? If not, create a stone pick. If not, create a wood pick. So if I want to make stone picks, I can't until I get enough wood to make as many iron picks as I can to consume all the iron oxide. But then to mine the wood, I would prefer to consume stone picks because they're easier to get. So it breaks the progression. I have to use like more primitive mining methods for a while. Howdy friends, how's it going? Tonight I'm just gonna kind of relax and space out. Today I worked on taxes. I'm gonna force myself to stop developing on this game. the iron pick is kind of not even worth it. It takes so many resources to make one. I guess to make it more balanced, I'll have to do some more research on like actual mining techniques or something. Trying to chill also. Intense day. How was the stock market today? NKTR hit 4x yesterday on its way to 5. Oh, is that stock you said to buy? Did you invest in it before it went up? Excellent. I hope you made $1 billion. About at 850, and it's at because if it's 4x, and it's like 30, 32, 33 years, or probably mid 30s now. That's good. That way everyone in my chat can be extremely rich. Google, Eli Lilly, diagonal spreads. Somehow everything else is red. Yeah, I have no comment on the analysis of stocks. I spent enough time on that to know that it's complicated. I think to have any edge, like if you eat, sleep, and breathe it all the time, you really know like a particular sector. Like I think if you probably dedicated your time and analysis to maybe monitoring like a handful of stocks, and you were like, you know the company, and you also know like how the market makers work with that stock, and stuff the general public might not understand, or how they might like misread news. But any money you make, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of other smart people who want to make that same money that you're making, and you're competing with them. I'm slightly getting ahead my iron picks. I like the lag is kind of not too bad. I think actually honestly, I think the latest version of the game is actually a little bit more laggy than the last one, but it does do more stuff. Oh wow, we got a super chat. 35 ZAR. That's South African currency, I think. Thank you very much to Baron. It's kind of annoying. YouTube should really try harder to actually show people's full username. I think if people are nice enough to send a super chat, the least that YouTube could do is show the person's full name so I can actually read it. Baron ID something. Market melting up and AI is leading the charge. Oh yeah, I haven't really even thought about the impact of AI in trading now is probably also pretty crazy. I mean, the advent of large language models now. Honestly, if you're going to have some kind of if I was going to do like if I was arrogant enough to think I should get back into that, I would do some kind of like large language model system. I'm going to try to like trade on information, like, you know, instantaneously analyze something using large language models, and then try to find trading signals based on that. Do you see that Google is trying to roll out a CLI terminal hooked to a subscription of their Gemini? I haven't heard about that. I think there have been other like terminal products that are like hooked into some proprietary system, but I don't know. Honestly, I think it's kind of a tough market. Like the thing is, like if you ask the question, like imagine the type of person and the type of personality who uses a terminal. Is that the type of person who's going to be like excited to pay like, you know, $8 a month for a subscription terminal with telemetry and stuff like that? Like it's just not. It's kind of like a mismatch of I don't know. Maybe there will be some like Zoomer programmers who never programmed it who would be into that, but I think your average like terminal enthusiast is not going to be super thrilled about like hooking it up and having everything monitored. I'm sure there's a small market for it. Waymint, what's popping? Not too much. Max the leader. Code Rep John says hello. How's it going? Isn't using AI for trading kind of cheating? I don't think so. As long as you're not insider trading or something. It really depends where this information is sourced from. But if you're analyzing public information, it's fair game. NVIDIA all-time high. Yeah, I should go back and count what my stock options would have been worth. What's the due date for world domination? It's a good question. I guess it depends how rapidly the funding goes. We're doing pretty good today. We got $1.98, so we're well on the way. After heaven. I'm not sure what that's in reference to. Just imagine running LS in that terminal and all of your Sonic fan arts get sent to Gemini. Yeah. Yeah, I mean like the average person who uses terminal is the average person that gets like super angry about like marketing campaigns and UTM tags and tracking pixels and emails, but like the average person doesn't care about that at all. Nan Tui says hello. How's it going? If the world is dominated by a Canadian, does it mean the countries would be forced to be nice to one another? Yep. We would be, everyone would be legally required to be nice and generous, and we wouldn't have all those problems that we currently have in the world. We all have to announce about it in the fun Canadian way. Yep. Carney is kind of acting as the big world diplomat unifier right now. Seems to be rubbing elbows every other day. Yeah, I don't know what. I don't know. I guess the ultimate truth will be consequences, because he seems to say like. He seems to be, saying the right things to the right people, but he also seems like really inconsistent. Like when he first got elected, or I think he was still running at that point, he said like some really over the top dramatic stuff, like Canada's trade relationship with the U.S. is over. And then later, he went down and talked to Trump, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's just it's gonna be great." And just like totally contradicted what he said before. And I think there's been lots of instances where I don't know, he almost seems like he's going against, maybe it'll be a good thing, but he almost seems like he's going against a lot of what the liberal base wants. So in one conversation, he'll tell them what they want to hear, and then just like completely go against it. That was funny. Yeah, I guess it's. I don't know. I was kind of surprised at how, like how easily everyone seemed to eat up the whole like anti-U.S. rhetoric, and then. I was like, really? This is, I mean, the U.S. is physically beside us. Like, there's no future where we're not going to be trading with them. Like, even if we formed a trade relationship with Europe, when it comes down to sheer economics, the economics of shipping things to Europe, like if you think about the cost difference in moving stuff like 2 kilometers across the border by land over in the same day versus shipping it to Europe, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, we should have as many trade relationships as possible, but Trump deserves to be lied to at every opportunity. Canada should decouple itself from the U.S. if it's going to stand a chance. Honestly, I'm all for being like patriotic Canadian stuff, but at the same time, like there's a lot of people that talk a big talk about like reducing dependence on the U.S. and stuff. That's a good idea, but as it stands now, like their economy is 10 times bigger than ours, and we are so reliant on them right now. It's the idea of like decoupling from the U.S. at the moment is inconceivable, and the amount that we depend on them today for military is like we almost don't even have our own military in a lot of respects. We're totally compliant on totally reliant on the U.S. which is not a great thing, but before we would do anything else, we'd have to actually change that or take steps in that direction, and we seem to not do that. Hackamatrix says hello. How's it going? This game looks great. Mucho progresso. Yeah, it's coming along. The one major thing I added was the ability to see the layer below. I think that's a big deal. So now on the layer 0, you can actually see where the caverns are. So now you can go down. I think technically it might actually be a little bit slower in the newest version, but I completely overhauled everything about the user interface. So in the last version, I had a help menu, so you could press escape and they would just open this help menu. And this was, and so I had the basic frame code, but it was extremely haphazard. Like it had all these null checks and stuff, and it was not generalized at all. But now it's got like a really generic frame system, so I can like move the frames like this. And I can, go here, resize frame, and then the text will justify, and it works. It's all like multi-threaded. So every individual frame runs in its own thread. That was quite a bit of work to get this working seamlessly. Bro built a tiling window manager. Yeah, it's I did put quite a bit of work into this windowing system, but I think for a terminal-based user interface, it's going to come in very necessary and handy. So now, if I want to add new stuff, it's just going to be so much easier. Seems to be governing more from the center other than on the topic of climate change, which is his pet project. Yeah, he definitely likes the whole carbon talk, which I don't know how that's going to go in the long term. Maybe even center right. Yeah, I honestly have not been following the minutia of stuff, but I heard that there was a bunch of bills that he voted, like he pushed through that the conservatives were like, actually, we like this, so they just didn't oppose it. I have a trading relationship with my local gas station. Pies and monsters. Excellent. A bartering system. Everything 3D. Yeah, it's eventually, well, the game itself is designed in such a way that a lot of the data structures I can probably repurpose them pretty seamlessly for like a 3D engine. So that would be kind of one of the ultimate visions. But I think before any of that, I'll try to maybe implement multiplayer. Vaping took half day off. It's not good for your lungs. I assume it's not. It's funny, there was a big push to get rid of smoking, and then everyone started vaping, which I assume is probably just as bad. don't see ASCII, see high def 3D. Yep, that's basically what it is. Have that out to head pressure. Dropping a super chat of the way. Nice. Not great. Not a daily smoker. That's good. Look after your health. You only got one health. How much is rendering code and how much is underlying data structure? So I guess the I can give some overview of the code. So if you as I move around, you can see those. So if I try to move, actually, let me zoom out a bit. So if I move like really far up here quickly, if I don't get stuck on blocks, you can see. So there's those question mark characters very far out. So that, like this area over here, that's an area of the map that's not loaded. And so the U is an area that where I've, so question mark is, I know nothing about that region. And the U is, I know I've queried the server and the server says there's nothing there. And right now it's actually the client that initializes those chunks. In the future, it'll have to be the server. So if I so I have in memory chunks, which is so this is the data structure that basically keeps track of the chunks that are being like loaded and unloaded. So it's basically my kind of local in-memory store of blocks that are comprised in chunks, and the chunks map to the messages to. So when I don't have a chunk, I will send a request to the server to request a region of memory of a size for that chunk, and that's stored in this data structure. Game Dev Chad sends $10. Thank you very much. We're up to $11.98 US. Yeah, so this is this is just the like local in-memory store of chunks that maps to memory. Then the next data structure that I have. So in the map area, this was actually one of the things that I just implemented recently, which is a generic data structure for three-dimensional circular buffer. So this class allows me to basically move, so I can so I have this data structure that I found to be really convenient called cuboid address. That's what I've called it in the game. Basically what it is, I'm using it as 2 points in n-dimensional space. So an arbitrary number of dimensions, so it can be 2 dimensions, 3 dimensions, 4 dimensions, 5 dimensions. 2 points in arbitrary dimensional space. And the class could be generalized. I was thinking about generalizing this to an arbitrary number of dimensions. So I can I just tell it basically what region of space. So as I move, and if the case is if I move around one region, if I do a translation of the current region of space, by 1 in any direction, then it just updates the bounds for like effectively like the pointer, like with a circular buffer. But it does that in arbitrary dimensions. So depending on, as long as the region of space remains the same size and dimensions, then any translation by 1 basically just moves in that direction. And the code's pretty uniform. So I guess if I wanted to make this part, so the cuboid address thing, I use that all throughout the program. That one works with our arbitrary dimensions. I could make this easy. I could just easily change this to use recursion. So the way this is written, it could be easily generalized, but for now I'll just leave it like this. 3D array, yeah, basically. So, and so that's the case when the region of space that I'm covering is the same size, and if there's some intersection. So if I guess in the future, if I implement like a teleport command, what it'll do is it'll see that, okay, the region of space you're covering is the same size, but there's no intersection. So then it'll just, it goes through and let's see, where's my, oh yeah, initialize empty region. So I did this for, I wanted to unit test this really well. Because if this data structure contained bugs, then it'll be a nightmare to debug. But this initialize empty regions populates it with a default. So the default is just pending, like the pending load block class. So then I can just check the type of cell at that location. And if it's a pending load, then what gets rendered is a question mark at that location. It's parameterized by a number of dimensions, or is it type of dynamic dimensional array? So the cuboid, actually this is one of the next things I'm thinking about refactoring. So the best way to explain this class is so to describe a region of space in arbitrary dimensions, so if you think about the 2D case, one of the easiest ways to describe like a square or a rectangle with as little information as possible is if you say, give me the coordinates of the lower left corner and the coordinates of the upper right corner. So you only need two points in space. The one that's closest to the origin and the one that's furthest from the origin. And those 2 points, with those, and that's what this lower and upper is, with those 2 points, you can describe everything in that like square or rectangular region of space. And I found that just to be a very convenient way to describe arbitrary regions of space. Now that's for a square in 2D space, in a 2D plane. For 3D space, you can easily generalize that with two corners of the cube, only 2. So even though it's 3 dimensions, you only need two points to describe a region of space. And the other advantage of that is with those 2 points, you can pretty easily figure out like how to build an iterator that iterates over all regions of that space. Because what you can just basically say is take of those 2 coordinates for each dimension, x, y, z, w, look at between those 2, look at the max and min value between the x, y, and z for both pair coordinates, and you just think about every permutation of like everything in the range between high and low for the x, high and low between the cross product between the high and low for the x, high and low between the y, high and low between the z, etc. And for those, that cross product of that gives you every point in that region of space. Now, I thought about it, and from all the code I've been writing, what I originally did was, so what I just said was the lower coordinate is the position in the square. Train's making noise. The position in the square that's closest to the origin, and the upper one is the one that's the position in the square that's furthest from the origin, and that's why I wrote it so far. But I've been thinking about it and writing the code. I've decided it actually makes sense for the upper coordinate to just be like the +1, the one that's outside of the region of space. And the reason for that is because the way I made it with this upper and lower coordinate being both inside means it's impossible to make a cuboid address that represents it represents an empty size region of space, and that was in my opinion, that's a major design flaw, and that's actually the next thing that I'm going to fix. I'm going to update my code so that every application of this for the upper address can be +1, because there's a lot of like, for example, the map area. For the map area, I'm describing that by this cuboid address, and that's a problem that it can't represent empty regions of space, because when I first initialize it, and I don't have any data about the map area, that player data hasn't loaded, I have to initialize the map area with null, and that means I have tons of null checks. But if I could create a like cuboid address at 0.000 to 00, which should be an empty region, then that would I could just use that and then never do the null check, because all the code would work seamlessly. It would just cover a zero size region of space, and all it would just compute the intersection. The intersection would always be empty with an empty region of space, and so forth. Right now, the minimum size I can describe is a region of space of size 1. So that's the one of my major design flaws. Yes, half open intervals for the win. Half open intervals. Yeah, I guess I had to think back to my math theory on that. Yeah, and actually, there's a ton of like for loops and stuff like that, and I've just been thinking like, wait a minute, if I just made it, if I made this update, I have all these like +1s everywhere in my code, and I could just get rid of all of them, and all these null checks and stuff. How many bills were injected? How many nulls? I don't know. How many bills were injected? How many nulls were injected? There's a bunch of them throughout the code, but I could delete a lot of them. Yeah, so so I've showed you two of the data structures so far. This actually, this three-dimensional circular buffer, this was one of the things I did over the last 60 days. Now if I go into the map, so I actually have I have two. So technically the map area is actually being stored in like 3 different ways. So there's that in-memory chunks data structure, which is in a different class. It's in the basically client class. That data structure just keeps track of any arbitrary blocks in the world, which also includes blocks that are not in the the navigatable area. And so any kind of future I guess game data, like player data and inventory data and stuff, that'll also reside in that data structure. For this thing, my map area blocks, that just is going to contain that now contains my basically it was just a plane before, but now that I added the extra dimension to show the graphics of the block below. Now my fancy new data structure allows me to do that easily. I just tell it to cover an arbitrary region of space. It doesn't matter what dimensions it's in, and it now covers the top layer and the bottom layer below it. And then in addition to this map area blocks, there's also a screen buffer. So every time I update the map area, this is another inefficiency. Right now, if I update anything on the map area, it iterates through the entire map, and it gets the presentation of each cell. So it takes the block skins, just takes the class name, and for the Unicode blocks, it's literally just, this is the Unicode character for like stone pick, or like, a rock. That's the Unicode character for a rock in UTF-16. And other stuff like the pending is just a question mark and so forth. So if you want to change what the block looks like, you would change it in here. And then, so right now, it's iterating through the entire map area, which is not efficient. One of the next things is I'm going to probably make my 3D let's see. So this gets sent to, and so yeah. So I have a generic, my base class for any of the frames. This does a write to local buffer. So this is the generic method for writing the text. So it just iterates over an array, and so this is the actual like literal text at a given XY position, XY column on the screen. And so this would be the third buffer. What I'm planning to do, I'll probably use my three-dimensional circular buffer class to represent this. And so then what I can do is I can just use that. So instead of re-rendering the entire screen every update, I'll just do a shift by one, and then only reinitialize the strip, like one strip that gets that actually needs to be like have those pixels, have those columns re-rendered, and that should speed it up a bunch. And I don't have to write a new buffer class. I can just use the other one. Do you have O1 operations? Operations on the space. Put that in a file. The UTF-8 mappings. For the O1 operations on space. Yes. So the what'll happen in the 3D circular buffer class. So I want to say like update buffer region. So this will just this will start out with like a square region, see around the origin, and then if I move the player character one position up off the screen, what it'll do is here's an example of one of those null checks. I'm gonna say like, is it null? Then it's null. Otherwise, get the intersection cuboid address, because that's another property of that data structure is in arbitrary dimensions. The intersection between two of these cuboid addresses is itself another cuboid address. So I can, being able to calculate intersections in space is really convenient. Yeah, so calculate the size intersection. And then, oh yeah, calculate the size component. So if the intersection is not null, and the size before and size after are the same. So in other words, if I just translate the buffer by 1 in any dimension, then I just calculate the displacement in any direction, and then I don't even move the data. What I do is I just I have a class member that just says, okay, it's a circular buffer now, and then we just update the pointer, just calculate how much that would have moved, and then there's an empty region, and this thing here, this method here just initializes anything to whatever the uninitialized object should be, and so that'll end up being a pending load block. I did something like that. Strip method for preloading Minecraft world chunks. I'll take a look at that cuboid structure. Yeah, I think in my opinion, if you want to want a mental map of it, just think about in 2D space. Just think about the point that is closest to the origin, the one that's furthest to the origin, and in arbitrary dimensions. So if you go to like 10 dimensions, you only still need 2 points, because one of the properties of it is what I'm intending to represent from it is for the lower point. So say you have two points, and you have x, y, z, w, 0, whatever, and it's like 10 dimensions, a 10-dimensional vector. And then between those two 10-dimensional vectors, let's say x is like 6 and 1, and the other one it's 10. If you want to represent all points that are between those spaces in 10-dimensional space, all you have to do is iterate between with the x equals 6. So you fix x equals 6, and then you just do the cross product through every other thing, all the other combinations, and then you do 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, and so you can just consider the range between those two values. And as long as you can cycle through those two ranges, then you can represent everything that is in that region of space. But the design flaw I had was I think the upper region should just be exclusive, so it should be outside the range. That was a major design flaw, I think, in designing that. What's going on here? LOL. I'm talking about a data structure that I made up for. I don't do game programming or any kind of like 3D vector math, so it's quite possible that someone else has already made up something like this. But I called it a cuboid address, so it's just two points in space, and then you can represent everything in an n-dimensional region of space with two n-dimensional coordinates. Is addressing a cuboid modifying contents of an address and deleting an address 1? I'll answer that in a sec. Just stopping by. What's this language? This is Java. Is addressing a cuboid modifying its contents of an address and deleting an address 01? Modifying its contents, probably, well, I guess it depends how extensively you're updating its contents. And I guess if you're talking about O1 versus as opposed to like O of n, the question is what does n represent in this context? So I do the cuboid address actually is a pretty important so I have been using it so I did focus a bit on trying to optimize like the compare to, and I probably could if I was going to optimize this, I would probably because I found it there are a bunch of places where I use a cuboid address as a map key, modifying what the address points to. Modifying what the address points to. I guess in reality, so that it's basically that's kind of like asking what a coordinate points to, because it basically it's nothing more than two coordinates that describe a region in space. So you can like for example in the in-memory chunks data structure. So I have to I have to queue up a bunch of, so every one of those little like chunks of like 3 by 5 that you see when I'm navigating around the map area. So it's not a container. No, it's not a container structure. But if you wanted, so like this, you could use it to make a container structure. So for example, here's one where when I want to say load everything on the screen, what I do is so I have a given region on the screen. It's like 10 by 10 or whatever. And then I just figure out, okay, what coordinates do I want to load? So I want to load a bunch of regions of space. The first chunk of data, I come up with a cuboid address for that. And then in the in-memory chunks data structure, I have a bunch of regular sized chunks that are all described by a cuboid address. And then once they actually load, once they come back from the server, I have a map that goes from a cuboid address to an individual block array. And so this would be your container structure, is the map. And so you asked if it's O1. I guess it would not be O1 because it would be the time complexity of the map lookup. So the efficiency of it would depend completely upon how efficient your map lookup is and how many things you have in your map. But that was something I did have to optimize. So like technically, I mean, you could, if you consider a map lookup to be O of 1, then yes. But of course, then you have the key calculation time. Is it a hash map? Actually, I started it with hash map, and I found tree map I think was more efficient. It's been a while since I did this, but I found one of the first things, like I don't really, the way I code, I usually just write stuff. I try to optimize for something that's correct and simple, and I just let it be like incredibly slow. And so I write like a lot of, bad code that's obviously going to cause performance problems. And then I just run a profiler, and then whatever the profiler tells me is where most of the time is going, then I just fix that. And then there's all kinds of other code that's inefficient, but if I don't see it around the top of the profiler, then I just never optimize it. And I remember when I was doing that, going from hash map to tree map made it a lot more performant. Yeah, I think I did this for performance. There was a couple things I had where order mattered. I think tree map might keep some order or something. First time seeing anyone coding straight up in VI. I think it's actually like symlinked to Vim or something. Just about the hash function. Calculating address is expensive then. I guess it can be. I mean, one of the only more optimized way would be just like just allocate a big block of memory, and then this allows for a bit more like kind of random accessed stuff. I guess it probably would be more optimized just to have an array. Yeah, I think in general, I think this data structure has been pretty useful. If I had to optimize this, I guess it's probably, maybe I wouldn't use hash. I'd probably still use this qubit address, but then I'd probably like have some other thing that I don't know, I probably just wouldn't use it as a key to look it up. It would just be like in another data structure. And then I'd use some properties of that to calculate the offsets in an array or something. Works if your space is small. Yeah, it's this in-memory chunks class also handles the chunk unloading. So that's one of the things it does. So basically, at any given time, there's a set of regions that I need loaded in memory. And so I tell it like, okay, right now I need to have these areas of memory loaded into, I need these areas loaded into memory. And so it goes through and it calculates. There's actually a bunch of bugs I had with like state transitions for, so I can have chunks that are already loaded, chunks that I've sent to a request to the server, and then some chunks I send a request to the server and the chunks get unloaded before I even get the request back. So just keeping track of the state transitions of like what chunks are out there and so forth at any given time. So your project in the GitHub link in the description. Just want to read up on what you're doing. Yep. Buffer from disk. Got it. So you can really just preload as much as you need. It doesn't need to be super fast. Yeah, the model here was about like being able to be able to store an arbitrary number of chunks of space, of non-contiguous space. So this model allows, so I can have like I can have like multiple regions of space, some of which are loaded, some of which are, currently there's requests pending the server, and they're all, that's the other, I guess, reason for this design is that these are non-contiguous regions of space. But then the map area data structure for that one, it is contiguous regions of space as I move across the map. I used the tree structure for that. Yeah, I guess that maybe I could argue I'm doing the same thing with the tree map. That's what it ended up being the fastest. It's a game. I thought it was actually about mining. Eventually, I do plan to make it a much more realistic mining simulator. Sparse voxel oak tree. Yeah, honestly, I don't. I'm not much of a game developer. A lot of my past experience has just been in like writing servers and stuff, and mostly building garbage web software. I'm actually surprised that hash map was slower for you than a red-black tree. Tree map apparently is RB free according to docs. Honestly, there might be faster ways to do this. I just like I said, my programming way is just like make something that is simple and correct, and then just run a profiler, and if it's slow, then optimize it. And there's tons of code I have in this project, and if you look at it, you're like, man, that's O of n squared or like O of n cubed, but it doesn't matter because like if it doesn't show up, you know, if it only happens like once or twice, or it's like a list of length 5 or something, I'll just keep it correct, and then when I realize that's the point of like that fancy 3D circular buffer class, the reason I wrote that is because I ran the profiler and I found out that all these like map transition stuff, that was the slowest part of the code, and it was also that code had the most bloat in it and repetition, and it had tons of bugs. So I'm like, you know what, I'll just think really hard about this and write a generic class for it, and then I can reuse that. And right now this is not the bottleneck. This is pretty fast, so if I need to come back to this or like load more region into space, then maybe I'll I'm sure you can always make it faster with more code, but then more code means more bugs. Went with flat arrays, so it could be fast. Yeah, flat arrays are definitely going to be faster, but then I guess you need the if you want to have arbitrary regions of space, I guess the voxel octree. I haven't heard of that before, but I guess I could imagine what that data structure is. That's me. I'm writing garbage web software for a Fortune 100. Nice. Yep, that's where the money is these days. If I needed to load a lot of voxels, I would use octree on the outer parts of the render, but they wouldn't be editable unless I load them into the flat buffer. How do you decide when to optimize, try to speed up your code, versus when to implement new features? I guess the first thing would be like if it seems slow, I just run the profiler and see like where is it spending a lot of time, and sometimes on that I'm actually quite surprised, because I'll think like, oh, you know, it's probably this or that, and then I run the profiler and I realize, oh, it's actually like some other thing I didn't really even think of. So if it's slow, that's an indication that I have to think about like it's worth putting the effort into thinking about how to make it more clever. And of course, clever means, you know, more code and more bugs. And sometimes you can do like the thing I said about like just changing hash map to tree map. That was a very easy win. So in that case, if it's just easy and quick, then I'll do it that way. +1 on hack matrix, really low latency software. Care about cache sizes, L2. So often simple arrays outperform other stuff. Yeah, there's a lot to consider in, especially in modern computers. Is if you can keep the cache footprint really low, having a really tight loop helps a lot. Hash lookup on small data, for example, might actually be faster with brute force. Counterintuitive, but it works. Yep. Memory accesses are slow if you have to go out of the cache. So yeah, that's the data structure that basically it handles like the storing of blocks in memory as they come back from the server. And it also handles like when it's the thing that basically initiates the new chunks that have to be loaded, and then the chunk initializer thread. This thread accepts messages all the time, and yeah, so it accepts when a chunk needs to be initialized. It gets sent here. Then we keep track of it. And I also, one optimization was to continuously, so every time you calculate which chunk to load next, it calculates which chunk is closest to the player's current position. So every time you're moving around, so if a bunch of chunks came onto the screen, it'll always make sure to load the one that's closest to you, or initialize or load. And the initialization code is here. This is all of the terrain generation. So this right here, that's how caves are generated. Blank sphere around the origin. This is terrain generation below ground, ground level, and above ground. You've tried and now digested the calzone. It's time for the next chapter. Is passive food harassment. What is that? I can't even read that word. Oh. Okonomiyaki? Is that an actual technical term for passive food harassment? Yeah, that's the chunk initializer. And for each of the frames, so this is the base class. This is the base class for each of the frames. They implement a base class for on render frame, on keyboard input, on ANSI escape sequence. And right now there's only a few types of frames, but I'm going to try and make it kind of a generic thing so that eventually I can just implement some basic UI controls, like I imagine like an input buffer or something, so you can actually like type in something. I was thinking for if I actually end up implementing more game features, I'll have to have like a cheat code, like a command line thing, so I can actually enter in commands like tell it to teleport the user to a given location, like basically like what is it, creative mode in Minecraft, where you can just give yourself items and stuff instead of having to mine them. It's some Japanese food. These are all weird foods you guys keep requesting. A calzone. You guys kept mentioning that, and I thought like it must be. When I Google for it, I just get a list of like all the pizza restaurants around here, but none of them have a menu item that's actually authentically called a calzone. So it's not easy to buy those around here. And if I have to buy that weird Japanese thing, that's, I don't know, it's probably expensive. I have to go to like some special Japanese place for that. Yeah. What else? Yeah, I guess not much else I can think of about those data structures. Let's go ahead and fire up the game again. The reason you were bugged about calzones is you don't know what they were, though many people do. Probably unlike Okonoyami. Honestly, after in trying to find a place that would actually sell me a calzone, I'm not surprised I hadn't heard of them before. It must be, I don't know, it just Kitchener doesn't have a lot of calzones. And when I was in university, I never heard of anyone. I guess maybe I saw someone eating one, but I never heard of it in conversation. It almost sounds like a fake, made up food. Maybe calzone popularity is more of a US thing. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's I don't know, maybe it's just sheer coincidence of my region. And that one that I had was not I guess if I had one again, I would ask for no mushrooms. That Red Bull's making me tired. How much have you raised? A decent amount, probably about $1,000 or so. I looked up if you could replace many if else statements with switch case in Java, but apparently not possible. I think you can. I guess it depends what's in the. It depends what conditions are in the if else. I'm not sure of the. I'm not sure of the rules. I think in C you can get away with some pretty crazy stuff in your case statements. Range-based case statements are C# thing, but not in Java. With my 2 minutes of Googling. Yeah, I don't know. It might be. I don't know the exact rules. I guess I haven't needed to do any exotic switch statements in a while. Would you ever buy land in BC? If I was extremely rich. Just got that memory leak crash in Firefox again. That's annoying. You can buy with friends. Yeah, it's possible. Although for financial agreements like that, I'd have to be really good friends with them, I think. Unless we had, I think, I mean, it's easy to be friends with someone when there's it's a low stakes friendship. But then as soon as like money becomes involved, now you have like reasons to fight and have disagreements. If you don't agree on the on how you're going to use the land. You have some C++ in the code base too? Yes, I have a JNI library for calling out to some functions to. So in order to handle this case, so if I resize the window, those events, there's no native Java method for that because it's an operating system feature. So I have to hook out to set up a signal handler in C++, and that allows me to do these awesome repainting and adjusting the terminal, adjusting the terminal size changes. I might buy a village in Alaska, build it from scratch. That'd be kind of fun. That's like one of those, fantasy dreams about if I had millions of dollars. There's a guy on, there's a guy who has a YouTube channel of like, he bought some old mining town somewhere. And it was fixing up some of the buildings there. Those are fun YouTube channels to look at some of those old unexplored abandoned places. And there's a lot of cheap land in those random areas. Wasn't C++ code the only way to handle window resize? Yep, it's this SIG WINCH event. Why did you combine C++ with Java? That's curious. It was necessary. So there's no. I guess it could be maybe another language. I'm not sure about building JNI libraries in other languages. You probably can. It's probably possible to build one in Rust or something like that. But the key is. So the key is this here function. To get the functionality of this, to set up a signal handler, there's no way to do this in native Java because it's an operating system feature. So I have to do it in an external library, and then build a native. Let's see, in these are native methods. So here I'm in Java, and I call out these native methods that I have implemented in C++, and that's the only way to do those. And there's other things that are operating system specific that you can't actually do in Java. So I think in a large application, you would have a J and I library for that supports like every major operating system that you support. Awesome repaints. Thanks. It was a lot of work to get those to work. I've seen that old mining channel too. Yeah, it's pretty popular. Ghost Town Living on YT. I don't remember the name of it. I've only watched maybe a couple of videos of it, but I see it recommended a lot. I'm from an old railroad town, but no one could buy it up. Do you write C? I thought I saw some C. In this project, there is some C++ that's in this file. There's not a lot. I just did it to set up the signal handler for this specific here, sig window change event. Which is topical to your game. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean that could be a feature. You discover old mining towns. But I think there's a lot of stuff that has to happen before we get to that point, though. Are you sure you can't handle signals in Java? I looked it up, and I was pretty confident. I came to the conclusion that this is so there was one example. I can't remember if I even got it to work or not. It was like it was in some like import sun.microsystems whatever class, and it allowed you to do, if I recall correctly, there were some signals that I think you could get access to, or there's some limited signal handler functionality. But for this one, I remember there was some really, really old Sun Microsystems thing you could import. But then when I tried to run it, it said like, this is deprecated. But you can get it working with this flag if you compile with this flag or whatever. And then I tried compiling with that flag, and it still wouldn't work. And then I ended up reading that there's it's actually like so deprecated that this extra flag to like undeprecated does not. The flag to undeprecated has been deprecated. So there's just like, it's extremely not supported. And the reasoning behind it was that it's considered an operating system feature, so it's not supported in Java. What CPP headers are you using? There we go. There's the list. If there is some way to get signal handlers to work, arbitrary signal handlers to work, specifically this one, I was not able to find it. And I remember that was something I spent like a day or something Googling on, and I kept finding that old example of that deprecated Sun Microsystems example code. And eventually I decided I'm going to need to, there's going to be certain features that I'm going to have to, eventually I'll probably call out, if I ever implemented mouse support or something, I'd have to call out to the, probably some end curses functions. And I think I recall someone implemented I can't remember even what it was. It was it was a Java program that implemented incursus functionality, but I feel like I could access all of that from a Go environment or Rest environment. I can make pure system calls from Go and handle all signals. Probably. That wouldn't surprise me. Send me a link, or not link, just right in the chat. You want a link? What do you want to link to? Robert, best of luck with your project. I've seen a couple of your videos. Hope you'll create what you've set out to achieve, and I'll be happy with it. Thank you for the kind words. Ncursus is fantastic. I brought a Vim clone and an Ncursus. Yeah, I know of Ncursus, and there's a few the things about it that I've thought about using are some of the mouse handling functions, because there's no to handle that pure native. I don't really even know. That's something that I probably a lot of people have asked me if I use Ncursus for it. I'm not using Ncursus in this thing at all yet. And I haven't really focused on supporting lots of terminals and stuff. I have some basic stuff to check if I should go into ASCII mode or not. I just checked the was it the term string and see if there's I think if it contains X term, then it'll assume the emoji mode. But in the future, if I need to support more platforms, then maybe I would use that. And there's also not curses, which is a package that some really intense guy made in the last few years that I've been looking a bit more at that. If you search for not curses demo on YouTube, he's got some interesting demos. I want a link to the signal. This SIG. This here is the signal name. I'm actually not. I can't type in the chat unless I go stand up and go to the computer. But that's the name of the signal window change. Can't see the signal. What's that word? ELL. Okay, so it's man 7 signal. All right, I'm out. Take care. Have a good night. I can't. As for the Java example that I found, I can't remember. I don't have that on me right now, but and I won't bother taking the time to look it up. But it was. I remember it was an import I hadn't really seen before, and it was like import like Sun Microsystems or something. I remember it said something about Sun. It was like a very, very old implementation. Yeah, so it looks like just a standard Linux signal in the sealed header. Sony Systems programming language. Can basically use it. Java maybe. Not because it's on a JVM. Yeah, if you can find, I looked it up a bunch. Of like, I remember finding some examples where like, hey, you can do this, and then when I tried to actually use the code for it, they were all deprecated, and there was no replacement for it. Day 62 is my favorite day. What's the day? It's day 62 of my raising funds for world domination. Looks like the only way to access C functions is via JNI. Yeah, that was the conclusion I came to, and for the signal, the conclusion I came to was that I think, if I remember correctly, there were some other signals that you could catch, like maybe what is it, sig term or something. I think there might have been some way to catch a sig term signal in Java, but that signal window change is like not quite as popular, I guess. World domination is why I asked about land, because my world domination plan is to buy land, so I'm going to be free to work on wherever I want. I think that's a good plan. I guess it all depends on job and financial situation and stuff, but the more I don't know how much of my story you've seen about the renovation fiasco and stuff like that, but that this experience has hardened my mentality against like people give armchair advice about like you should own, don't rent. You want control over stuff. And after this experience, I don't know. I'm kind of traumatized. I may never rent an apartment ever again after this. I'm gonna go live in the woods somewhere. Because we still have, yesterday I found out when the next hearing date is. I mean, this rent eviction thing is nonsense. The tenant board should have enough information that they can dismiss it completely. But so the next hearing is going to be the fourth hearing that has been scheduled. So every time they schedule that, we got to like prepare for it and attend it, and there are quite a few signals. Sig up, sig kill. Is there a way in Java to listen for those? Because at least for the signal window change, I found every way that I saw about it was deprecated. You can build a super Adobe home on Crown land. Super abode home on Crown land. Can you? It seems like the government's getting more heavy-handed in like telling people what they can't build, and like coming up with all these ridiculous building, like they put them under the guise of building codes, but it's just like a scam to get you to buy like a stupid piece of pipe connector or something for like 10 times the price to take a bit more money out of you, and it's like required by law. Make $250 a year, but I'd like to just make YouTube videos or like MMO. Don't know, maybe even just some type of small farm that pays bills. Yeah, I mean, if you're making $250K a year, I don't know, in this economy, I would say like keep stacking cash. Try to put away as much as you can, because the gravy train, I don't know how, I think there's going to be significant changes in the economy, and I mean, actually anyone in tech who's now hanging on to those those really nice salaries might be on borrowed time. There may, I don't know, who knows, things may recover, but also, like, what if it doesn't? Because I'm honestly very surprised at how fast, like, just there's so many like basic societal structures that I thought would be intact and that like deteriorated ever since COVID. I'm a super renter right now, living like Airbnb 2 months at a time. You can only listen to signals via the CEC API. Yeah, I mean, the other wild card too about like salaries too is immigration. Like historically, immigration was kind of normal and predictable, but the last few years, the government seems to have, in like basically every Western country, has just gone like absolutely insane with immigration. So anyone who is born and raised here and educated here is now competing with so many more people for the same jobs. And I mean, when you bring in so many people under like, precarious visa conditions and stuff, you can also make, treat them worse, make them work for less pay. So that's the other aspect, putting a lot of downward pressure on salaries. Magic pipe connector. Yep, whatever you can do to get more money out of people. Need to meet the engineering requirements of a local township for DIY off-grid. Because the fee for design review by local municipality can range from 10 to 15K. Huh. That's I think it's not quite that bad if you're in a very rural area here, but well, it is currently 7 after midnight. I think I may call it a night. I didn't have any particular plan tonight. I had been. I don't know. I guess I'll continue with this streaming series for the next little while. Hopefully, if I can get through the taxes and then start get back to making. If my schedule could be like I could do long form videos during the day and then maybe code a little bit on this at night. That might be a bit more sustainable. But I got to get through the taxes first. That'll be at least the next few days. So I won't really be working on developing this at all. But anyway, I will call it a night. And I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Later.